I would bet that I'm not the only one here who has fallen asleep watching TV. Get nice and comfortable, your favorite TV show is on, and then you wake up to some random infomercial at 1 o'clock in the morning for a product that is surprisingly interesting. Maybe it's just the grogginess. Infomercials, I don't know if they still have those, but it's this extended, like 30-minute ad, and in some horrific cases, 60-minute ad for one product. You've got the Bowflex for sculpting and exercising, getting buff. There's the Snuggie, which is the blanket that you wear. These are not paid advertisements, by the way. The George Foreman grill, probably the most famous one, and the list goes on. And a favorite line of these infomercials is, "But wait, there's more." It's effective marketing. We all know it. But wait, there's more. And just as you'd wake up and you think the infomercial was ending, and there was more and more and more and more, just kept on going. With most infomercials, with most products, there's not really more. But wait, there's more. It's catchy, it lives rent-free in our heads, but it's kind of an empty promise in consumerism. How much is enough anyway that I should always be wanting more? There was first billionaire, John D. Rockefeller. A reporter asked him that question. Maybe you've heard this. But Rockefeller had all this money, and the reporter asked him, how much money is enough? And he said, just a little bit more. This guy who had plenty for all of us, just a little bit more. One of the reasons that I have decided to follow Jesus is that with Jesus, there actually is always more. With Jesus, but wait, there's more is not just an ad. There is always more. It's not an empty promise. When we sit at Jesus's feet, we realize there's more and more teaching for us to receive. When we walk in a relationship with Jesus, we realize there's more and more love for us to receive and then to give to others. And we realize as we follow Jesus throughout the days, weeks, months, and years that we could do this forever. Like that old worship song from the late 90s, early 2000s, I could sing of your love forever. That song just kind of lose. I could sing this song forever. But we can sing of Jesus's love forever because there's always more to sing about. There's always more to learn, always more to grow in. There is always more to love about Jesus. And I think that more than anything is what keeps us going. This is the fifth and final sermon in a short summer series I've been calling 5 Things I Love About Jesus. 5 Things I Love About Jesus. And I've said before, there's not going to be a follow-up, 5 Things I Hate About Jesus. And there's more than 5 things that I love about Jesus. And that's, I'm sure, true for you too. We could keep going because, wait, there's more. In fact, I want you to think even now, if you would, and maybe even take some time this week to make a list. What are the things that you love about Jesus? Have you sat down and expressed that to God in a while, or even just to yourself? What are some things that you love about Jesus? Why are you here? You could, up the street at Flower, I probably shouldn't mention this, but they have a Sunday New York Times out for free for anyone to read any Sunday morning, and there's usually seating there. You could be there instead, but you're here. Why? And you follow Jesus. You've given your life to Jesus. Why? What do you love about Jesus? I'd encourage you to take some time this week to just think about that. Make your own list. Go back to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. See what stands out to you as you read the Gospels with fresh eyes. And I've shared with you leading up to today 4 things I love about Jesus. His compassion, Jesus's conviction. He knew who he was. His courage. Talked last week about Jesus's creativity when he healed the blind man by spitting on his eyes. It's pretty creative. And today, the cross. I love the cross, which is a super weird thing to say I love the cross, because it's like someone saying, I love the electrical chair. Oh, you're sick. I love instruments of pain, because the cross was a gruesome form of capital punishment. It was the death penalty reserved for the worst criminals, and it was a slow and painful and humiliating death. So it may seem a little odd to love the cross or to just wear crosses around our neck like it's nothing, or to put them up on the walls of our churches or our homes. But I love the cross of Christ because at the cross, Jesus turned everything upside down. Jesus flipped it all around. Or maybe it's that the world and everything was upside down and Jesus turned it right side up. You want to think about it that way. At the cross, Jesus changed everything. Everything. At the cross, for example, Jesus triumphed over sin and sickness. He won. He flipped sin and sickness right on their heads. So we went from being separated from God to being in a close relationship to God. He took our sin and he gave us righteousness. He turned it upside down. A great example of this is when the Apostle Paul says to the Corinthian church that he had a thorn in his side. Thorn in his side. And he said, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. I don't know why that always makes me think of a mosquito, but it's more than a mosquito. What kind of a thorn, Paul? Are you talking about like a besetting sin, something you just can't get on top of? Is it a physical ailment or an illness? And I cannot wait to ask St. Paul that question, if he'll tell me. Well, what's the thorn, oh Paul? Well, whatever it is, we don't know. Whatever it is, Paul prayed to God. It says, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take the thorn away from me. And God took that thorn away, right? No, he did not. God did not remove that thorn. But God took the weakness of that thorn being stuck in Paul's side and he flipped it upside down and turned it to strength. God said to Paul, my grace is sufficient for you because my power is made perfect in weakness. My power is at its best in your weakness. So Paul writes, therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. This thorn, Paul said, is my reminder that I have the power of Jesus even when I'm weak. And Paul could only write this because of the work that Jesus did on the cross. He flipped everything upside down. Jesus took sin and sickness and thorns and he flipped them on their heads so that thorns become like rose petals with Jesus. Because there we see God's beauty working in us. Sin leads to death, sickness leads to death, and at the cross, Jesus won over sin, he won over sickness, and he beat death. There was new life that came out of the cross, a new life for us. So Paul, even with this thorn, could say to those same Christians in Corinth, he could say, death has been swallowed up in victory. And where, O death, is your victory? Paul is talking trash to death, which is a really bold thing to do. But he can do it because of Jesus. Where, O death, is your victory? Where is your sting? How do you like me now, death? I've got Jesus. So Jesus turned sin and sickness upside down. He saw where they were leading, which is to death, and he flipped that on its head too. But wait, there's more. At the cross, Jesus took on all sadness and showed how even grief can be redeemed. Jesus took sadness on at the cross. Another reason I love the cross. So we can send our sadness right to Jesus. We're going to sing in just a few moments from a well-loved hymn, See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did e'er such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a crown? Jesus takes the sadness into himself, onto himself, and he transforms it and he gives us back joy. He did that at the cross, and he does that still today. When Jesus started his ministry, this is another thing to love about Jesus, is his boldness, his courage. In Luke chapter 4, he asks for the scroll to be handed to him, and he reads from Isaiah 61, and he basically said, that passage you just heard, that's about me. And this is what I've come to do. Jesus is charting out his ministry. Let me read that to you because it talks about how Jesus takes our sadness. Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. And here it is, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who grieve, and to give them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning. Who makes that trade? Oh, here, I've got some ashes. You've got a crown of beauty. Yeah, that seems about even. I'll make that trade with you. Jesus does. Gladness instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. And those of us who are feeling despair right now or have felt despair know that a spirit of despair is the right way to talk about it. It's like clothing that envelops you. Jesus says, take that off, take mine instead, which is a garment of praise. That's joy. That's taking sadness and despair and hopelessness and turning it upside down. And he did that at the cross. He triumphed over sadness, turned it upside down, and gave us joy instead. And that gift is not all the way fulfilled. You still get sad, and that's okay. But more joy, even more joy is on the way. Though the sorrow may last for the night, joy comes in the morning. And we could stop here, but wait, there's still more. At the cross, Jesus turned our shame upside down. Something else he turned upside down. I had a moment of shame about a year ago. I was talking to this woman, and she said, Abram, you could stand to lose a few pounds. I said, I'm sorry, who do you think you are? I said, I'm your doctor. We feel shame or embarrassment about all kinds of things. You name it, we probably felt shameful about it. And our shame makes us want to protect ourselves. It makes us kind of go inward. We don't want people to notice or talk about or even be interested in those things that we're ashamed of. So then we get even more isolated. We turn inside even more, and the shame then just grows and like has its way with us. So Jesus then comes in and he takes that feeling of isolation, he takes that shame at the cross, puts it on himself, and he redeems it. That was a humiliating death to die. There's shame at the cross. Whether you're Jesus or anyone at the cross, that is a shameful death. No dignity in that. Jesus took it on, transformed it, flipped it around so that we could be exalted. So we could come out of that shame and isolation. Jesus' mother, Mary, could see this coming before Jesus was even born. Mothers are very good at this, seeing things before they happen. And so Mary saw this coming with Jesus, and Mary said, he has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. Another prophecy that she would see fulfilled in Jesus, her son. In other words, Jesus takes the reality, the status quo, the way things are, and he flips them upside down, puts them to how they ought to be. So the proud will be humbled, and whoever is humiliated or full of shame, they will be exalted in Jesus. And Mary in this song, this is in Luke chapter 1, she describes what feels to me like an alternate reality, because I know a world where the unjust reign and where cheaters actually do win, and where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And by the way, that's a phrase, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, but it's not just the saying. There are specific numbers that show how this happened during COVID-19. And it was too demoralizing for me to look it up and trot those out to you. But just know this, and maybe you know this already. Millionaires and billionaires got a whole lot richer during the pandemic. And for the rest of us, the rest of the world struggled to afford rent. And that's the reality we know, which is not the reality that Mary describes, because she sees this upside down world that Jesus is getting ready to bring into being, where the lowly are lifted up, the hungry are fed, the proud are pushed back, the oversatisfied are sent away empty, and there is enough And there is more than enough for everybody. That's the future that Mary saw. And so that means even all the shame that you feel, that lowliness, that humiliation, it is turned upside down at the cross so that you can be exalted, lifted up, no matter who you are, into the presence of God. And so we'll sing in a few moments, "When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and I pour contempt on all my pride." No pride, no shame. It is all transformed at the cross, turned upside down. The version of the hymn that we're about to sing, it has a modern chorus. The words to the chorus are simple. It's just, "Oh, the wonderful cross, oh, the wonderful cross, bids me come and die and find that I may truly live." Cross bids me come and die, invites me to come and die and find that I truly live. So Jesus defeated sin and death at the cross, so we can live for Jesus. At the cross, Jesus triumphed over sickness, so we may live in true health. At the cross, Jesus took on all our sadness, so we get to trade our ashes for beauty. And at the cross, Jesus beat shame, so we can boldly approach the throne of grace, not in shame, but in confidence that God loves when we come to him. Sin, sickness, death, flipped upside down. Sadness, transformed into joy. Shame, the lowly are lifted up. All flipped on its head at the cross. That's why I love the cross. And yes, but wait, there's more. I could keep going and you could too, but we'll bring it home now. The cross reverses everything that has gone wrong in the world, even if that great reversal hasn't fully arrived yet. And we long for that day. So what feels now like death in our lives, when flipped upside down, it's actually life. Paul's thorn, his weakness, is where Jesus' strength really shines. When I die to myself, I live in Jesus. Such an upside down way of thinking compared to what we are used to. I want to close by telling you how yesterday I got a divine reminder to live the upside down life with Jesus. And bear with me, this takes a little bit of setup, but one of the funniest and most ridiculous and powerful prayer experiences I've ever had. So we've got great friends, Trent and Bronwyn. They're in town right now. We're renting their place in East Boston. Just amazing, wonderful people. And so Trent was with me in the study, which is the KJ study now, but used to be Trent's study, and kind of reminiscing. And out of the middle of nowhere, his phone alarm goes off. And he says, "Oh, it's 12 p.m., the Lord's Prayer." And he just starts praying, "Our Father, who art in heaven." And I'm thinking, well, I should probably pray with him. So I did. It was a little awkward at first, but it's kind of cool. You know, we said the Lord's Prayer together. And he's got this alarm set on his phone, 12 o'clock p.m., say the Lord's Prayer. And he does it every day. All right, so yesterday, that was 2 days ago, yesterday, Trent and Sarah and I were getting ready to have a new fridge delivered because ours is old and leaky, and they just thought, we'll get a new one. So we got everything ready, and Trent and Sarah were working hard. I was doing a great job getting pictures and video of the occasion. And the delivery guys called 20 minutes out. You know, we had the old fridge out because we knew that was going to be tricky and we wanted to clean back there. The guys called 20 minutes out. We're almost here. You know, we said, all right, you can get our new fridge. And then they didn't show. 30 minutes later, Trent comes to me and says, "I didn't get a call, but I just got an email that they attempted delivery, but they couldn't find a parking spot. They circled around twice," which I'm not sure I believe that's true. So we don't have a new fridge right now. It's fine. We spent the next hour or two fuming, and 6 customer service reps later on the phone, Trent and I are back inside, putting the doors back on the old fridge, which is now in a very weird spot in our kitchen. Lots of cleanup, talking about how mad we are at these delivery guys. And then Trent looks at me and he laughs and he pulls his phone out of his pocket. And I'm thinking, great, it's the delivery guys calling. Nope, it's his 12 o'clock noon phone alarm reminder to say the Lord's Prayer. And without saying anything, Trent just looks at me and laughs and says, "Our Father, who art in heaven." What a time to pray that prayer. Are you kidding me? I almost didn't make it through that prayer first because I did not want to pray. Was not in the mood to pray. But Trent kept going, and I was the only one in the room. So how's that going to look if I don't pray with my friend? And then when I did pray, I was laughing too hard to make it through. Like, seriously, Lord, give us this day our daily bread. We don't put our bread in the refrigerator, but still, like, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who miss deliveries against us. That prayer flipped both of us upside down. Trent said it's okay to share. It flipped us both upside down as we remembered that God provides our daily bread. We're going to be okay. God also calls us to forgiveness. And that was one of the most powerful and definitely the funniest experience I've had praying the Lord's Prayer. So if you're ever with me at 12 o'clock noon, and my phone goes off, I may take a page out of Trent's playbook and start to do that prayer. Jesus calls us to die to ourselves so that we can truly live. I've experienced some new life after praying that prayer. Still mad, they still did us wrong. We still need our fridge. We're still going to make some phone calls, but in the presence of God. And I love this about Jesus. I love the cross because it shows us that everything is upside down. In weakness, there is strength. Even in death, God brings us abundant life. In anger, there can be forgiveness. So help us, God. All of this more than we could have ever asked or imagined. The cross just turns it all upside down and gives us life.